Welcome back to IMC Live, an interactive series hosted by the Industrial Marketing Collective. I'm Alan Fennewald, Associate Content Director at Gorilla 76, the industrial marketing agency, and one of your IMC Live hosts. Before we get into our topic today, Sydney, you just popped in at the perfect moment. I want to introduce our new co-host, Gorilla 76 writer and content strategist, Sydney Jones. So, Sydney, thanks for joining us. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself before we dive into today's topic?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I am, like Alan said, a writer, content strategist at Gorilla. So I work a lot with copywriting, whether that's like website, email, LinkedIn ads, all that stuff is kind of my bread and butter. Before I was at Gorilla, I worked at a magazine. I was the editor there at Missouri Life magazine. So I have stepped into a new world with the industrial space, and I love it. It's really fun. But yeah, excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And now for today's topic. So, let's think here. You've worked hard to get the right people to your website, but most of them still leave without converting, and you don't want to let them go. You don't want to let all those fish go out back to sea. So now what do you do? Gorilla 76 performance marketer Brad Litwin has some ideas for you. So today, Brad will break down how retargeting display ads keep you in front of the right buyers and expand your reach across the Google network. So we're going to cover how retargeting fits into the B2B manufacturing buyer's journey, how to build audiences that actually reflect your ideal customers, what good creative and messaging looks like for display ads that won't get ignored, and a lot more than that. So, Brad, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I spent the vast majority of my career in a web hosting company, a smaller one. And so we were kind of a small fish in a big sea of a very saturated market. A lot of the times it was a one-person marketing team, two-person marketing team. So we had to be very creative how we differentiated ourselves from our competition. Early on, we jumped onto retargeting, and it was one of the strategies that we felt worked pretty well.
Perfect. Yeah. And what was it about that strategy that drew you to it initially?
Uh, so it was new, which was always something that our CEO was pushing for. But it was affordable and it was kind of measurable.
Hmm. And what did your CEO have like a big vision for it at the time?
Not really, because when we started, it was new. It wasn't so like right now, pretty much anybody can run a retargeting campaign. When we jumped on, there's probably like two or three companies that were actually running retargeting campaigns. Yeah, it was just a new thing that we wanted to try.
All right, perfect. So how do you define retargeting? To
Yeah,
give us the
so
breakdown.
sure. So with uh, normal advertising, not really a guess, but you're trying to make like an educated guess who your audience is, who you want to target, what their demographics are. With retargeting, it's actually you're specifically targeting people with your advertising who have visited your website or have taken some sort of action. So it's a lot different than just casting a larger, wider net.
And what is it about the Google retargeting specifically that you think is good for these return people?
Yeah, it's pretty affordable. If you look at some of the other networks like LinkedIn, LinkedIn campaigns can be pretty expensive. It's also um, pretty you, pretty much any website you go to. It just Google has an absolutely huge display network, and um, it's fairly easy to set up. I mean, as long as you have your Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager set up properly, you can set up a campaign pretty quickly.
Hmm. And what is it about Google Analytics that also helps with that compared to other platforms?
Well, specifically, when you have that set up properly, you can really deep dive into who you want to target on your page. So you could target people who have visited any page on your site, a specific page on your site, a number of pages. You could target people who have just gone to your cart and abandoned. So it's pretty powerful as far as who you're targeting.
Hmm. And how does a customer listing compare to other platforms? I know like we had Peyton that was really happy with her upload list. I wish she was here to talk about it today, but so yeah, how do you feel about that compared to other things?
Yeah, so I've never actually run a customer match list on or on Google Ads, but it's a pretty powerful tool. So you can actually upload a list of your customers or leads, and Google will target them specifically. So that's it's a really powerful tool as well as the analytics matching.
Hmm. So how are the audience and retargeting based? Like they're based on like cookies, I would guess, or device IDs?
Yeah, it's strongly on cookies. A lot of people are starting to block those. So it's also based on device ID. And then there are situations where you'll notice, like if you live with someone, a spouse or a roommate, where you'll start to see ads for something they're interested in. So to some point, Google also has like proximity targeting. So there is, to a lesser extent, a possibility that you'll see retargeted ads for someone that you're close to in proximity based on like your Wi-Fi connection.
Hmm. What's your outlook for the future when it comes to that, as like cookies and all that we typically have relied on are becoming less and less useful?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. We'll see. I think, most people are probably already logged into their Google accounts. So I think that's probably going to become more and more powerful as people continue to block cookies and that becomes less and less for the targeting.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we shall see, I suppose. But let's just go ahead and dive into what it takes to create a successful campaign. Like what should you start with when you're trying to do this?
So um, for me, like I'll tell anybody that before you spend $1 on an ad campaign, you should really have a strong landing page, one that's been tested, one that's been well designed. That's super important. I really think it's more important to if you look at your funnel, is try to increase the bottom of your funnel because it's gonna you're gonna end up saving a lot more money to begin with when you have a higher conversion rate instead of just sending people to the top of your funnel. So I would start there, and then well-designed creatives. So with Google display ads, it's pretty easy to actually create responsive ads. It's a little different than search ads. You do a long description, a short description, and then I think there's another one. So there's like 11 text blocks. Um, and then you can rotate through different images and logos. So Google will actually like create all these permutations about which ad is actually the most powerful and best converting. You can also upload your own display ads. So if you have you create them yourself or you use another company. So you don't necessarily have to use responsive ads. And I'd say for the third is some sort of hook. What are you actually offering? So it could be It's a little different than when you're just targeting someone cold. It's kind of like when you meet someone for the first time. You don't really have to like introduce yourself. Instead, it's more, would you like a free demo? Would you talk to a salesperson? We have a free trial. We have a discount. So I think those are pretty much the three main things you should really focus on when you're starting to build a retargeting campaign.
And we had a comment from the chat. It's kind of hard to know who made it because for the podcast listeners out there, we have some technical difficulties going on in the live webinar, and we have many Sydney Jones among us. But one of them said that one of the major overlooked things with these campaigns can be the landing pages. And I know you all in the performance marketing department really do have some pet peeves and some standards on what makes a good landing page. So would you want to touch on that real quick?
I mean, so I know a couple shows ago there was a focus on landing pages. So I would definitely, if you hadn't seen that show, definitely go look at that show. But yeah, I'm not a designer, but if I look at a landing page, I want something that's clean looking, pleasing to the eye. Um, not, I mean, you want to use bullet points. You don't want just blocks of text. Clean images. And then probably most important is just clear call to actions and take you right to a form to collect some information from your leads. That's sort of how I would look at it from a very high level.
Yeah, and to channel Kevin from the performance marketing department, you should always have the thing you're selling in the headline. Say what it is you're selling in the H1, please. Don't let people guess.
I've taught you well, Alan.
Yeah, I'm happy to channel you anytime I can, Kevin. Do you have any other points while you're on board there, Kevin?
I think Brad nailed it. Like just message match from the ad to the landing page. Whatever somebody is, if somebody's clicking on an ad for a specific thing, send them to a landing page that is about that thing and make it obvious with the in the headline. Like if somebody's clicking on an ad for CNC machine, send them to a landing page that's like CNC machines and outline the problem that that will solve in the sub part. And then to Brad's point too, like clear image or video, like some sort of visual above the fold so somebody can read and then see exactly what it is that you're offering. Another thing too, we don't always have as much of this, but it's a good thing to plan for and pull proactively is social proof, case studies, testimonials, anything like that. If you can stack social proof, it will really make your landing page much more powerful because it's handling objections before a salesperson ever has to. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for adding
and to
that.
piggyback off the piggyback, as Kevin mentioned, is if you're selling something, make sure it's on the landing page for the ad. So I said if you're offering a free trial in your ad, make sure that the landing page alludes to that. Make sure that there is a clear your the message sends through from the ad to the landing page.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a bridge, it's got to make sense on both sides. All right. Sydney, I want to get you in here. We haven't heard from you very much. You have any questions for Brad or the group?
That's a great question, Alan. I hopped on kind of last minute to the team, and so I haven't really had any time to prep yet. And my mind has been occupied with the fact that everyone is named Sydney Jones right now on the Zoom.
hmm
And yeah, that's pretty funny. So nothing strategy wise to put in yet, but
hmm Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Well, just let us know. Especially, if you have any questions that you like think that new marketers would be interested in learning about, we'd love to hear your perspective. Okay. So we've heard about things to do. What don't we do, Brad?
Yeah. So one way that you can really blow through your spend, in my experience, is having the ads show up on mobile apps. So Google doesn't really make it easy to turn off mobile apps because there is a difference between mobile apps and mobile ads. So mobile apps would be your ads showing up in, I know, Words with Friends, or I've seen, you can check your bounce rates, but I don't think people are looking for B2B products as they're swiping on Tinder. I think there's a lot of misclicks. So I would use the Google Ads editor to make sure that you're turning off uh, mobile apps. It's a lot easier in the Google Ads editor as opposed to just trying to block. Because in Google Ads, you can see where your ads are showing. Another thing is making sure you have a negative audience, which means that anybody who's actually a customer or has actually converted, you're not targeting them with the ads. Example of that is, if you purchase something and you're still seeing ads for what you purchased, it's kind of a bad customer experience. It's also a waste of money. Um, and third, there is a kind of a hidden setting in Google where you can uh, prevent or you can set how many times you want your ads to show. So I think it's called frequency management. So you can set, if you want your ads to show like 5 times a week to a visitor, you can set that. So yeah, I think those are definitely ways to make sure you don't just blow through your budget.
Yeah, perfect. We have a question from Grace in the chat. Grace, you want to come on and ask? Grace Annawalt, I believe it is. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I see that you have unmuted, so maybe you're trying to speak to us.
So I see the question,
Okay.
and what I would suggest doing is when you're making your, this is what I do personally, is I'll put
Could
the
you like phrase the question real quick out loud so everyone
oh,
knows what you're
sure,
talking
sure.
about?
So the question is there a way in Google Analytics to, as far as not targeting people who've already purchased, if you're not fully utilizing HubSpot or another CMS? So what I would actually recommend is, since this is retargeting and this is people who are coming to your page, is coming from more of a service industry, what I would do is I would put in we had a lot of return visitors because they were logging into their portals and their billing system is putting those links, so a login link to, if they wanted to log into their account, putting that as a negative audience. But for like a B2B, usually you have a confirmation page, making sure you put that confirmation page, anybody who has viewed this page, as a negative audience. Because you can pretty much guess that if someone has seen that confirmation page, they've converted as a lead.
I appreciate it, Brad. Yeah, seems like that
Good
answered the
question.
question well. Yeah, that was a good question. Thank you, Grace. All right. So let's talk a bit more about how these are different from regular Google ads. There might be people that have run Google ads a lot but haven't touched the retargeting yet. So what are the things that they need to keep in mind if they're coming from that space?
Yeah, so I would say most people are running search ads on Google. With retargeting ads, it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to get up and running because it's not based on search terms. It's all based on the audience that you're creating. So it's based on those links that you're saying, hey, someone's visited this landing page. I want to make an audience. I want to target people with these specific ads. So, and I feel like it's a lot more affordable. I mean, uh, I've seen clicks for like 10 to 15 cents. So um, I think that's a big difference between search and display retargeting.
Okay. And we had another question in the chat about how are you narrowing down channels to ensure dollars are best spent to reach your ideal target audiences? Could you talk about that a bit more?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but I think it really depends on how much traffic you're getting and from where. So if you're getting a ton of organic traffic and you're not spending you don't have a lot of your, say like the vast majority of your traffic's coming from Google, organic. I think that I would spend more money on retargeting, as opposed to someone who or a business that isn't getting much traffic, and the most of their traffic is coming um, from Google or advertising because I'd rather cast that bigger net. So generally, the rule of thumb is you spend 10 to 20% of your ad budget on retargeting. If you're not getting much organic traffic, I would probably lower that, because I'd rather target some new people as opposed to just targeting the same people. If you're already have a big net of organic, I would continue to try to hit those people because you're not going to have to spend as much to bring them in.
All right,
I
perfect.
hope
And
that
one more.
answers the question.
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. And if there's a follow-up question that come into the chat, we'll cover that as well. But we do have another question in the chat here. This one's pretty specific. What's a good generic message for an ads retargeting campaign if your regular ads are product group one, product group two, etc.? Do you focus on competitive pricing or encourage a CTA?
Well, for one, I don't really like generic messaging. I would get pretty specific. I would talk about what makes you better than your competition. But I would also test. That's what's great about Google Ads is that, it doesn't cost you any money to test multiple messages. You could test a free trial, a free demo. You want to focus on this specific feature of your product.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. If it's generic, then it is a lot less useful than what you can actually add to that discussion. But that might be kind of self-evident. Like maybe the question could be like, what's a good practice, let's say, that would be something that you can lean on most faithfully
Okay.
when it comes to making a solid ad for this. Like
Yeah, yeah.
what's a
So if you're,
tactic? Yeah, you got me.
yeah, if you're starting, like, if you're saying like, I want to start from scratch, I need one good ad set. Um, I would lean heavily on your USPs or your unique selling proposition. Like what makes you better? What sets you apart from your competition? Is it a feature? Is it your service? What's your calling card? And I would really focus on that in your ads. Remember, these people that you're targeting, they've already visited your site, so they're at least familiar with you. So that's where I would kind of lean towards uh, trying to offer them something. They didn't convert the first time, so if you're getting a second chance, give them something. Give them a free trial, a demo, a discount, a sales call. Um,
Yeah, I wish there was more discounts in this line of work. It would be a lot
yeah,
easier.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever been allowed to actually offer a discount before, but one of these days I'm going to convince somebody. So let's say that you did all that and you're looking at the data. How do you know that it's working? How do you know it's not working? What's your measurement scale?
I wouldn't get the second for the same price. Yeah, buy two, pay twice the price. Sure. Um, So there's always a question about attribution. And I think as marketers, we're always trying to like fight for those dollars or fight to prove our worth. I think uh, it's always kind of difficult to directly attribute your ad spend to actual ROAS or return on revenue or return on spend. So what I would do is I would figure out a baseline of how many leads you're currently getting with your efforts, maybe over the last 6 months. Say like each month you're getting 10 leads. And once you start retargeting, seeing if your efforts are actually bumping up your the number of leads you're getting. Or do you start to see that you're getting 11, 12, 13? I think that's where, especially if you're not like really doing anything else new, if you're like just specifically doing what you're currently doing and then you introduce retargeting, um, I think that's where you'll start to see if it's actually working or not.
Hmm. Is there like a high bar that you would set? Like this is when you know that you are killing it?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm getting 10 leads per month and then I introduce retargeting, all of a sudden I'm getting 12, 13. I mean, that's a 20, 30% increase. I mean, to me, that sounds like it's killing it. I don't have a specific number, but I mean, intuitively, I feel like that seems pretty reasonable.
Hmm. And what's the low water mark? What's where it's like, man, I don't know if this is worth continuing to do, or like, maybe we can't test our way out of this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if you're seeing that you're not really getting more phone calls, more emails, more leads, that doesn't necessarily mean you need to quit. I would say maybe you try some new landing pages, try testing some new messaging, try testing new ads. Just really, once something, even if it's successful, I think you should be testing constantly.
Hmm. Yeah. Speaking of that, let's talk a bit more about how to make these ads as good as possible, as effective as possible, so we don't waste a cent, because it's only getting harder and harder to keep people from just scrolling right past the very beginning of any Google page because you've got just so much fluff at the top now. So it feels like it's even harder than it has ever been to get people to actually notice these things. So well, what do we need to be doing to try to make our odds as good as possible?
Yeah. So, um, if you offer a number of products and you already have like a Google Merchant Center, you can set up dynamic retargeting so that if someone looks at a specific product, um, they don't purchase or they don't put their information for a lead, then they'll start to see like that product and logo and images all wherever they're going. So I think that's kind of important. I think that's always been eye-catching, but I think you need to have really good professionally designed ads, and that includes an interesting headline, an interesting, I keep saying it, USP. I think your call to action, there should be some contrast. I think you want to tell people what you want them to do. Yeah, but you're right, it's definitely getting harder and harder. And test. Again, just test. Like you don't have to have just one banner. And you have all the stats in the world that Google Ads gives you. You can see right there which ones are working, which ones people are clicking on, which ones people aren't clicking on.
Yeah, perfect. And Kevin, sorry to put you on the spot, but I know you had a LinkedIn post on this topic not that long ago. So do you have anything to add there?
Oh, wait, which part? About good ads?
Yeah, like how to keep people from scrolling past display ads, especially as that surface gets more crowded and harder to stand out in.
Yeah, I think it's like it's just bringing all of the elements that Brad has been talking about, bringing them together. Like I think it's hard to get hold people's attention unless you know exactly who you're trying to talk to, and then you have that targeting narrowed down exactly where it needs to be. So like if you're running retargeting display, like using this example, and you could retarget people who have looked at specific products or pages on your site, like just knowing that's a small audience, that is a small group and segment, but we're going to still have a message that is specifically catered to them. So like show them something that they've already shown interest in.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think would be the key there. I
When
did
in
have
doubt,
a
count out.
question. I did have a question for Brad though.
Yeah, please.
Um, so talking to about looking at performance, Brad, like you mentioned turning off mobile app placements. Um, in my experience, I feel like when you see the mobile app placements, sometimes you see an inflated click-through rate or just inflated metrics overall because people ultimately, I imagine what's happening is like people see the display ad in the app or they see it in a place that they don't want to see that ad. So, and they're accidentally clicking it or they're trying to like scroll away from it, but then it still registers as a click. So then click-through rate looks really good. But then you may not have as strong a conversion or may have a really high bounce rate. So, like, what would be your indicators for something being off like that? Like, even if something looks like it's doing well, but it's maybe not actually doing well, or even the opposite. Like, maybe it looks like, man, I was expecting a better click-through rate or cost per click, but maybe it's actually when you look under the hood, it's doing better than what it would appear.
Yeah, so if you launch a retargeting campaign and after a day you've seen like your budget's been spent, you can go in and see that you can see where the clicks are actually coming from. And so if you go to analytics, you're probably going to see a really high bounce rate and a low engagement rate. I think those are the two like metrics that I would probably really focus on that's happening. And exactly the X button, you click the X button and you accidentally like click the to go through to you click the ad. So that's a prime example of what's happening there.
Yeah, we had a message in the chat from Joel about how most of the time, whenever he's clicked one of these in a mobile app, it's been trying to close it, which I feel like has to be a very strategic choice, how tiny they make that little button. My fingers are bigger than that. It's hard
Yeah.
to do. I'm getting old. Um, all right. Well, great question. Thank you, Kevin, for all that. And we're getting towards our normal closing time. So, in light of that, Brad, do you have any closing thoughts for us to walk away with?
Yeah, I mean, if people have questions, I know this was kind of a hectic one. So, if people have questions, I feel free to reach out to me. Emails brad.litwin@gorilla76.com. Happy to help. But yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on things. You know, always be testing. If you have an ad out in the wild, have a one that's competing against it to see which one's converting better, and really focus on what makes you better than your competition. I mean, I think those are just two of the things that I kind of really like to drill in everybody's head.
Yeah, and be specific about it. What is it
Yes.
about them, their needs specifically, that you can speak to better than anyone else? Yeah, my favorite rule of thumb when it comes to that, like trying to come up with a message is think of your best customer, like your most ideal customer. And if they just dropped off the face, or if you dropped off the face of the earth, what would that do to them tomorrow? Like how messed up would they be? Because that really shows your worth. But with that, Brad, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for dealing with the chaos that was this kind of in between episode as we're making some transitions. You did a great job, riding this rodeo out with us.
I appreciate it. It was fun. Yeah. And again,
And
just email me if you have questions. Happy to help.
Mhm.
If we missed your question or you're like me and you're shy, you don't want to ask.
Oh yeah, we all get it. So yeah, please reach out to Brad. He is a very nice guy, very gracious guy. I'm sure he'll help you out. Um, so our next IMC Live will be September 3rd with Stu Akola, Senior Marketing Manager of Canon/Harman Industries, and he'll be leading us through how to develop sales trainings that actually create more sales. We'll walk through how to set up and execute sales training materials and programs. And if your marketing department isn't involved in these sorts of sales processes yet, we'll talk about why you should be and how to get there. So, folks in the room, we loved seeing you. Thank you so much for dealing with all the ups and downs today. I guarantee it's going to be smoother next time. We'll get all the bumps figured out. Thank you to all the Sydney Joneses out there. We really appreciated seeing all of you. And for all of those who are listening, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Really appreciate it, everybody.